everyone. Welcome to LexTalk World Talk Show presented by ClickAway Creators. Today we have Mr. Saeed Hasan Khan with us. Mr. Khan has a vast experience of advising clients on various issues like taxation, corporate, regulatory compliance, contractual obligations, and much more. Not only this, but he has represented them as well before the authorities. Before the past 20 years, he has practiced direct and indirect taxes, which encompasses all the three practice tiers: advisory, execution, and litigation. He advises on cross-border transactions, international tax treaties, and matters related to tax due diligence, corporate structures, including shareholder agreements, contractual stipulations between the companies. Not only this, he was also one of the speakers in the webinar on Pakistan cybersecurity co-organized by his firm and Legal 500 United Kingdom. And he has presented detailed comments on Pakistan's draft law on personal data protection to the Ministry of Information Technology and Telecommunication, Government of Pakistan. There's much more when it comes to his expertise and specialization, and not to forget his journey. But without any further ado, let me just introduce you to the man himself. Hello, Mr. Khan, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you very much for connecting here.
It's a pleasure to have you with us today, Mr. Khan, and it would be great if we can get to know, more about your journey, your practice areas, your firm, everything. So let's start with your journey as a legal professional and your firm.
Oh, thank you. Actually, we started our practice back in 2004 in Pakistan, and our firm, which is S.U.Khan Associates Corporate and Legal Consultant, it's a pioneering and leading firm practicing trade remedy laws in Pakistan with local and international clients. Apart from trade remedy laws, our other practice areas do include customs and taxation, corporate, competition law, information technology, e-commerce, privacy and data protection, and cybersecurity, etc. We serve to a large client base, both in public sector and private sector, big companies, big listed companies in various industrial sectors like steel, paper and paperboard, chemical, pharmaceutical, technology companies, educational institutions, not-for-profit institutions, etc. We have the privilege to serve our clients in various jurisdictions outside Pakistan, like China, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Malaysia, South Korea, Thailand, USA, UK, Singapore, Switzerland, etc. As part of our client services, we do regularly advise government for policy making issues and on drafting of different laws. Our firm also participates in international events organized by international organizations of the United Nations, like United Nations Conference on Trade and Development and the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law. Our firm do also participate to disseminate professional knowledge, and our professional articles do regularly appear and print in different reputed publications and platforms like ICLG, Mondaq, Lexology, Chambers and Partners, OneTrust, IR Global, and Financial Worldwide, etc. Apart from our firm in Pakistan, we do also have a consultancy practice based out of Dubai, which name is Vigilance Consultants, and the Vigilance Consultants do provide professional services like anti-dumping, taxation, due diligence, merger and acquisition, and corporate restructuring. So it's all the summary of our practices for the last so many years.
That's fantastic, Mr. Khan, and thank you so much for sharing light on this. Now, you already know that the pandemic has brought like a lot of changes in everybody's life and in every industry, so to speak. I would like to know what are your views on this, new world that we are in when it comes to the legal space. Like, courts have moved towards more remote proceedings. And according to you, do you think like this is a sustainable and a possible way to increase the access to justice?
Well, Bharti, actually, this pandemic has come across very differently to all over the world. Now working from home, remote working is a new norm. We say it's a new normal things. So during pandemic, the whole world has passed through unprecedented times. And the pandemic has posed very different and never imagined challenges to every sector of the economy and to every part of every activity of a nation. And when we see these pandemic-related challenges in the context of proceedings before the court, so it becomes so more significant because proceedings before the court is a means to access to justice for the general public. So I think the initiation of remote proceedings by the courts in these pandemic times is the right way to provide easier and simple access to the litigant parties to have the option to opt for the hearing through electronic means. So I would say that introduction of virtual remote hearings has not impeded the access to justice, but it has furthered this very cause. Now, coming to your specific question, whether this remote or the virtual hearings is sustainable option or not, so I would say that it could be sustainable, more efficient, and potentially providing greater and easy access to the access to justice. However, the impediment in this regard is digital divide, which means that record technological infrastructure like internet and other facilities are not equally available to all the masses. So in order to make this option sustainable, required technological access is a prerequisite, alongside proper training and capacity building of all the three parties like the judges, practitioners like we people, and the court staff. So it will, if we do on this sides, so this remote hearing could be a sustainable option. I would like to highlight an important element arising out of these remote hearings, which is about threat to privacy or the loss of personal data. As you know, as quicker we are shifting towards the electronic means, electronic transactions, and these virtual hearings, there is a greater threat for loss of personal data. And it's becoming more significant in view of the fact that globally now the laws on personal data protection are getting fully momentum, and the worlds and different countries are making their own laws about the personal data protection.
Thank you so much for sharing insights on this, Mr. Khan. As you have mentioned about personal data protection law, would you please briefly tell us about can you enlighten us more on this, please?
Yeah, it's very interesting. In fact, it is very interesting topic and emerging topic. You must have heard about General Data Protection Regulation, which we commonly say as GDPR. It is a Europe-based law and was implemented across Europe in 2008. In fact, Pakistan is in the process to develop a similar law on personal data protection. And the GDPR and the proposed law in Pakistan works on the same lines. And the basic concept of this GDPR law or the personal data protection law in any part of the country is to provide intensive rights to safeguard the personal information of a natural person. So these set of laws gives intensive rights to the natural person like me and yourself, and gives certain obligations on the persons who collect these personal information of the natural persons. The persons who collect this information of the natural persons are known as data controller, and the law places certain important obligations onto the data controllers, and these obligations are necessarily and mandatory to be followed by data controllers of the companies. I would just highlight a few of significant obligations. Firstly, there must be an informed and free consent of a natural person available to the data controller before he can process and collect the information. Secondly, without having any lawful basis, a data controller cannot process or obtain the personal data. Thirdly, the personal data so collected by the data controller after having the consent and with the lawful basis cannot be shared to an unauthorized person. And finally, the data controller is required to take security measures in order to keep safe and secure that personal data. And likewise, any other law, if a data controller fails to comply any of the requirements of the law, there are heavy penalties on the data controller for default of these compliance. And now the GDPR or the personal data protection law has much wider applicability and scope. It is applicable to every sphere of our life, to the public sector, to the private sector, to the telecom industry, to the banks, to the financial institution, hospitality, travel industry, and even education institutions, and also for the law firms. As in all these capacity, we somewhere and somehow we are processing or collecting personal information of the natural persons. So it is applicable to all of us, to all industry levels, no matter big or small. And considering these days when times when the use of IT and IT-enabled services is too common. So it is the need of the time that these laws must be there in all jurisdictions of the world in order that the businesses, which I say they are the data controllers and the natural person like me and you, must know their precise obligations, rights available under these laws.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, an amazing insight on personal data protection law. Now, according, like the way you have explained about this particular law, what exactly is the most challenging area concerning this personal data protection?
So yeah, Bharti is actually a very good question. As I said, that the personal data protection law across the globe have two major things. Firstly, they confer heavy rights to the national person, and then they impose certain obligations to the data controllers. Within this perspective, there is a one unique characteristic which is applicable or which is available under each jurisdiction, that personal data protection law has an extraterritorial applicability. This means that the EU law, which is GDPR, may be applicable in certain circumstances to Pakistan. And likewise, a Pakistan law on personal data protection may be applicable on China or EU under certain circumstances. So this extraterritorial applicability is a big challenge with respect to enforcement and also with respect to compliance. This is number one. Secondly, the important challenge, second important challenge is about cross-border transfer of personal data. Suppose a personal data is collected in EU and it needs to be transferred to Pakistan or China or vice versa. So there are certain conditions under which personal data collected in one country can be transferred to another country. And one of the most important and foremost principle or the permission under which personal data can be transferred is principle of adequate protection. That means if we want to transfer a personal data from Pakistan to EU, so we need to, the data controller, the person who is transferring the personal data needs to ensure that adequate protection is available in the country where I am sending this data. So this gives necessity to two things. Firstly, there should be a law enforced in that other country. And secondly, there should be means and mechanism available to protect that data. As I said, to transfer the personal data from one country to another country, there is a big principle, which is, or the significant principle, which is adequate protection principle. Apart from adequate protection principle, there are certain other means under which data can be transferred, but under those circumstances, the persons who are transferring the data, they are the data controller, they have to put, they are under more obligation to transfer that data. So in nutshell, I would say that extra territorial scope and cross-border transfer of personal data are challenging issues in data space.
Thank you very much for sharing, all about personal data protection. I mean, in this interview, I had never even heard of it, but I'm sure our viewers would get to learn a lot. Unfortunately, we are coming to an end of this amazing conversation. But before I let you go, I just wanted you to throw light on, or maybe if you can just share something with the budding lawyers who want to pursue law, like what is exactly one thing that you have followed throughout your life and has worked out for you?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bharti. It's, I think, a good opportunity you provided to me to share my experience to the new or the young fellows who would like to pursue legal profession. So I would answer your question in a very simple way, that first thing is to hard work, and secondly to read, and thirdly to seek knowledge and experience from your seniors, from your peers. So hard work is, there's no doubt about hard work. And the reading in legal profession is too much important. Either it is the law, it is the concept of law, it is the precedents or the case law set by higher courts, not only of your own jurisdiction of your home country, but you can also look around the laws and the judgments of the higher courts or the superior courts for other jurisdictions. And the third part, which is very important for any legal professional to seek and gain higher knowledge, is to seek knowledge and gain advantage from the already have experience of their seniors. So that will be my advice to my young joining fellows.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation, Mr. Khan.
Thank you.
Obviously, as I said, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I'm really looking forward to some more conversations like these in the future on some other trending topics. Till then, for our viewers, if you like this chat with Mr. Khan, please like and share this video, and do not forget to subscribe to ClickAway Creators YouTube channel to appreciate what we do, and you have more coming from industry legal leaders like Mr. Khan. So thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Khan. It was a pleasure once again. And this is Bharti for LexTalk signing off.